Have you ever felt like you're constantly waiting for someone to make you happy? Maybe you found yourself thinking, if I just had their approval, their love, or their attention, I'd finally feel complete. You're not alone. It's a common struggle. But what if I told you there's a way to break free from the need for others to define your happiness? What if you could feel whole, peaceful, and empowered, all on your own? Today, we're diving deep into the ancient wisdom of Stoicism to unlock 10 powerful keys that will help you eliminate emotional dependence and start living life on your own terms. Imagine waking up each day knowing that your happiness isn't tied to anyone else's actions or opinions. Picture a life where you're not constantly seeking validation, where your worth is unshakable and rooted in who you truly are. Sounds liberating, doesn't it? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this kind of emotional independence. And trust me, it's easier than you think. Whether you're looking to gain more control over your emotions, build stronger relationships, or simply find peace in your day-to-day life, these Stoic principles are about to change the way you see yourself and the world around you. But before we dive in, if you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on more life-changing content like this. Join our community of like-minded individuals who are taking control of their lives and becoming the best versions of themselves. So if you're ready to learn how to stand strong in your own sense of self and break free from emotional dependence, keep watching. Let's get started. Key number 1, understand the dichotomy of control. Let's start with one of the most foundational concepts in Stoicism that will instantly shift the way you approach life: the dichotomy of control. This is the idea that we can only control a small fraction of what happens to us, but we have the power to control how we respond to it. Understanding this simple yet profound distinction is key to freeing yourself from emotional dependence and building a life of inner peace. At the core of the dichotomy of control is the understanding that life is full of events, people, and circumstances that are completely outside of our control. We can't control the weather, how others behave, or most of the situations we find ourselves in. For example, you might be in a traffic jam, or you might be facing an unexpected challenge at work, or even dealing with an illness. These are things you cannot control, no matter how much you might want to. And here's the key. The Stoics teach us not to waste emotional energy on these things. When you realize you can't control external events, you stop getting frustrated, anxious, or upset over them. You begin to accept them as part of life, learning how to respond calmly and rationally instead of reacting with anger or stress. On the other hand, there are things we can control, and these are the areas where our true power lies. We can control our thoughts, our reactions, our attitude, and our actions. We choose how we interpret the events that happen to us, and we choose how we respond to them. Let's say you're faced with a difficult situation, like receiving negative feedback at work or a personal conflict. While you can't control what others say or do, you can control how you choose to respond. You can choose to take the feedback constructively, to remain calm, and to see the situation as an opportunity for growth, rather than allowing it to define your worth or make you emotionally reactive. Understanding the dichotomy of control means recognizing that worrying about what you can't change is a waste of time and energy. It's an emotional burden that weighs you down. When you stop trying to control everything, you stop feeling like a victim to life's unpredictability. You let go of unnecessary anxiety and frustration, and instead focus on what's within your power to improve, your own thoughts and actions. Take a moment to think about this. How much energy have you spent over the years worrying about things outside your control? Maybe you've stressed over someone else's opinion of you or feared an outcome you couldn't influence. The Stoics argue that this is a form of self-imposed suffering, and it's one that we can free ourselves from simply by acknowledging the limits of our control. By focusing on what you can control, you create space for inner peace and emotional independence. This practice helps you detach from the constant need for approval or validation from others. You stop relying on the external world to dictate how you feel. Instead, you cultivate internal resilience, recognizing that the most important thing is not what happens to you, but how you choose to respond. For example, let's say you've been let down by a friend, or someone's actions have hurt you. You can't control their behavior, but you can control how you handle your feelings. You have the choice to forgive, to let go, or to express your feelings in a healthy way without letting the situation consume you. That's where your power lies. Your emotional well-being doesn't have to be a hostage to someone else's actions or the unpredictable nature of life. In the end, the dichotomy of control is about empowerment. When you understand that you cannot control everything, but you can always control how you respond, you gain freedom. You stop looking for answers outside yourself and start realizing that your true source of strength is within. This shift in perspective frees you from emotional dependence on others and situations, giving you the stability and calm you need to navigate life with resilience and clarity. Key number 2, let go of attachments. Now let's dive into a critical concept that can truly free you from emotional dependence. Letting go of attachments. In life, we often form deep attachments to things, people, or outcomes. These attachments, whether to our material possessions, relationships, or specific desires, can create a sense of dependency that leaves us feeling anxious, fearful, or even helpless when they're threatened or lost. The Stoics, however, teach us that true freedom comes when we let go of these attachments and stop allowing them to dictate our happiness and peace of mind. What does it mean to be attached? Attachments are more than just a natural fondness or love for something. They are the emotional bonds that tie our sense of well-being and self-worth to external things. We may attach our happiness to a person's approval, the success we achieve, or the comfort of our possessions. While these things can bring temporary joy, the Stoic wisdom teaches us that they are not within our full control, and therefore depending on them for our happiness is risky. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So if we tie our happiness to something we can't control, we set ourselves up for unnecessary suffering. When we're attached to something, it often leads to fear of loss. For example, if we are overly attached to our career success, the fear of failure or losing our job can create constant anxiety. If we are attached to a relationship, we may fear rejection or abandonment. The more we cling to something, the more we risk the pain of losing it, and it's this fear that often robs us of the joy of the present moment. The Stoics suggest that the key to breaking free from emotional dependence is to practice detachment. But detachment doesn't mean indifference or lack of love. It means learning to appreciate and enjoy life's offerings without tying our self-worth or peace of mind to them. It's about realizing that we can have meaningful relationships, pursue our goals, and enjoy the things we love, but always with the understanding that these things are temporary and not the true source of our happiness. Let's take a simple example. Think about your phone. It's something many of us use every day, whether for work, socializing, or entertainment. But if you become attached to your phone, you may start to feel a sense of unease when it's not with you. You might experience anxiety if it gets damaged or lost. But when you realize that your phone is just an object, something you enjoy but do not depend on for your emotional stability, you release that attachment. You can still use it, appreciate it, but it no longer controls your peace of mind. One way to practice letting go of attachments is to regularly ask yourself, what if I lost this? What would happen? Could I still be happy? By contemplating this, you start to release the fear of loss. The Stoics call this negative visualization, and it's a powerful exercise for breaking free from emotional dependency. Imagine that everything you value, your job, your relationships, your possessions, suddenly disappears. In the beginning, it may seem unsettling, but with time you begin to realize that you can still be content and whole without them. This doesn't mean you should not value or cherish these things. It means you learn to not depend on them for your sense of self. For example, think about a close friend or family member you're very attached to. What would happen if they were no longer a part of your life? The Stoic practice suggests that rather than being consumed by the fear of that loss, embrace the reality that everyone and everything is temporary. With this awareness, you begin to love deeply without the fear of attachment. You enjoy the present moment, knowing it will change, and you appreciate the people in your life without trying to control or possess them. Key number 3, embrace the concept of amor fati. Now let's explore a Stoic concept that may seem a bit radical, but once understood, can transform the way you view challenges and setbacks in your life. That concept is called amor fati, which translates to love of fate or love of what happens. At first glance, this might seem counterintuitive. After all, why would anyone love difficulties, hardship, or even suffering? But this is where the Stoic philosophy really shifts the way we look at life. At the heart of Amor Fati is the idea that everything that happens to you, both good and bad, is an opportunity for growth, learning, and self-improvement. It's not just about accepting what happens to you. It's about loving it, embracing it, and seeing it as an essential part of your journey. Rather than resisting the circumstances or trying to fight against them, you begin to understand that life's challenges are not obstacles to your happiness. They are the very building blocks of your growth. Think about this for a moment. We all face difficult situations, whether it's a personal loss, a career setback, a relationship breakdown, or any form of hardship. Often our first instinct is to resist these events, to wish they hadn't happened, or to dwell on the unfairness of it all. But Stoicism challenges this mindset. The Stoics argue that by resisting life's challenges, we make them harder to endure. We create suffering where none needs to exist, because we fail to see that hardship, struggle, and even pain are inherent parts of life that can teach us vital lessons. Embracing Amor Fati means adopting the belief that everything happens for a reason and that every experience, no matter how difficult, carries the potential for transformation. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, put it perfectly when he said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, what appears to be an obstacle can, in fact, be the very thing that moves us forward. When you begin to love your fate, you stop viewing challenges as things to avoid or fear. Instead, you see them as opportunities for self-discovery and growth. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to enjoy the pain itself. It's not about romanticizing suffering or pretending that hardship doesn't hurt. It's about changing your relationship to difficulty. Instead of wishing things were different or becoming bitter about the situation, you shift your mindset and start asking, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Imagine a difficult breakup. Initially, it might feel like the end of the world. You might feel heartbroken, rejected, and lost. But through the lens of Amor Fati, you begin to see the breakup not as a failure, but as an opportunity to redefine yourself. Maybe it's a chance to focus on your own well-being, to learn more about what you need in a relationship, or to discover a strength within you that you didn't know existed. The Stoic wisdom teaches us that every experience is an opportunity to become a better version of ourselves. In practical terms, Amor Fati is about making a conscious decision to embrace whatever comes your way. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending that everything is okay when it's not. Rather, it means accepting the natural flow of life, knowing that life is full of unexpected twists and turns. And when you embrace those moments fully, you gain the ability to maintain peace and strength no matter what happens. Take, for example, a job loss. It's understandable to feel anxiety, sadness, and fear at first. But with Amor Fati, you would ask yourself, what does this situation teach me? How can I use this setback to move toward a better opportunity? Perhaps you'll realize it's a chance to pivot into a new career, to focus on something you're passionate about, or even to start your own business. By embracing the loss as part of your fate, you open yourself up to new possibilities that wouldn't have existed if you stayed locked into your previous situation. When you adopt the mindset of Amor Fati, you stop resisting life's challenges. You stop trying to force everything to fit into your preconceptions or desires. Instead, you trust that everything unfolding in your life is a part of your greater journey, designed to teach you something important. This mindset fosters inner resilience, because no matter what comes your way, you approach it with a sense of curiosity, openness, and even gratitude. So I challenge you to begin practicing Amor Fati in your own life. The next time you encounter an obstacle, instead of asking, "Why me?" or resisting it with frustration, try shifting your perspective. Ask, what can I learn from this? How can this experience help me grow? By embracing whatever life throws at you, you'll begin to build a life rooted in peace, gratitude, and the love of your fate, no matter what it brings. Key number 4, develop self-sufficiency. One of the most powerful keys to living without emotional dependence is to cultivate self-sufficiency. In a world that often pressures us to seek validation from others, or rely on external circumstances for our happiness. Learning to become self-sufficient, emotionally, mentally, and even physically, gives us the freedom to live life on our own terms. But what does it mean to be self-sufficient? In the Stoic sense, it's about becoming your own source of strength and learning to rely on your inner resources rather than seeking constant approval, reassurance, or validation from others. It's about not allowing your happiness or emotional stability to depend on external factors, like your relationships, your job, or your material possessions. When we are self-sufficient, we develop the ability to find contentment within ourselves, regardless of what's happening around us. Self-sufficiency isn't about isolating yourself or shutting others out. It's about realizing that you have everything you need within you to live a fulfilling life. In fact, the Stoics viewed the development of self-sufficiency as a form of inner freedom. Freedom from the need to depend on anyone or anything for your sense of peace. For example, consider how much of our daily lives can be driven by external validation. We might base our self-worth on how others see us, how much we achieve, or even how many likes or comments we get on social media. This constant seeking of external approval can leave us vulnerable to fluctuations in how we're perceived, making us emotionally dependent on others. But when we develop self-sufficiency, we begin to realize that our value doesn't come from others, but from our own sense of purpose, our own virtues, and how we respond to life's challenges. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus often talked about the idea that we should seek to be free from the influence of others' opinions. He encouraged his students to focus on their own internal thoughts and actions, rather than being swept up by the expectations or judgments of those around them. This doesn't mean we shouldn't value relationships or the input of others, but it's about finding confidence in your own judgment and decision-making. When you are self-sufficient, you don't need constant feedback or affirmation from others to feel secure in who you are. Self-sufficiency also means developing emotional resilience. When we rely on others to regulate our emotions or give us constant support, we set ourselves up for emotional instability. People, circumstances, and situations will change, sometimes without warning. Being emotionally self-sufficient means learning how to manage your emotions, not letting external situations dictate how you feel. It doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring emotions. It means recognizing that you have the ability to process, understand, and respond to your emotions in a way that doesn't require others to fix it for you. For example, if you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed by a situation at work or in your personal life, rather than reaching out to someone else for emotional support or validation, self-sufficiency means you can turn inward. You take time to understand the root of your emotions, assess the situation objectively, and then decide on the best course of action. By relying on your own capacity to cope, you create a strong emotional foundation that doesn't crumble when the winds of life shift. Developing self-sufficiency also involves becoming mentally independent. Many of us fall into the trap of seeking answers outside ourselves, whether through others, social media, or trends. The Stoics teach us that true wisdom comes from within, through reflection, reason, and experience. When you are self-sufficient in your thinking, you don't need to look to others to shape your views or beliefs. You trust your own judgment, knowing that you have the capacity to think critically, make decisions, and navigate life without needing constant external input. This type of independence doesn't mean you reject advice or avoid learning from others. Rather, it means that you make your own choices, drawing from your own inner strength, reasoning, and wisdom. You understand that while others can offer perspective or guidance, the ultimate responsibility for your decisions and your life lies within you. In practical terms, self-sufficiency can be practiced in small, daily ways. For instance, instead of waiting for someone to make you feel better after a difficult day, you could engage in activities that nurture your emotional well-being, like reading, exercising, journaling, or meditating. Rather than depending on others to fill the gaps in your life, you cultivate your own passions, interests, and hobbies, finding fulfillment in activities that don't rely on external validation. Self-sufficiency also means taking ownership of your own actions and choices. Rather than blaming others for your circumstances, you recognize that you are the architect of your own life. This mindset fosters confidence and personal growth, as it empowers you to shape your life by your own standards and actions. You stop waiting for permission from others or for life to magically fall into place, and instead you take charge, knowing that your destiny is in your hands. In the end, developing self-sufficiency is about becoming emotionally resilient, mentally independent, and grounded in your own sense of self-worth. By learning to rely on your inner resources, you free yourself from the emotional turbulence that comes from depending on external sources for your happiness. You begin to realize that you are enough, that you have the strength, wisdom, and emotional resilience to navigate life's challenges on your own. And when you do seek support from others, it comes from a place of interdependence, not dependence. So ask yourself, how can you become more self-sufficient today? What areas of your life can you start to rely more on your own strength, wisdom, and resources, instead of waiting for others or external circumstances to determine your peace and happiness? Key number 5, focus on your virtues. In Stoicism, virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance are the ultimate goals. Let's move on to a core Stoic principle that serves as the bedrock for emotional independence and a fulfilling life: focusing on your virtues. In Stoicism, virtues are not just moral qualities. They are the fundamental traits that guide our decisions, actions, and interactions with others. They are the true foundation of happiness because they are within our control, unlike external circumstances or events. But what exactly are virtues? In the Stoic worldview, the 4 central virtues are: 1. Wisdom, the ability to see things as they truly are, to make decisions based on reason and understanding. 2. Courage, the strength to face life's challenges, no matter how difficult or intimidating. 3. Justice, acting in a way that is fair, kind, and respectful to others in seeking the common good. 4. Temperance, practicing moderation, controlling impulses, and avoiding excesses in every area of life. When you focus on these virtues, you stop relying on external factors like money, status, or approval from others for your sense of worth. You stop seeking external validation and instead focus on developing your inner character. Why? Because virtues are the only things you truly have control over. No one can take away your ability to be wise, courageous, just, or temperate. No matter what happens to you in the world, you always have the power to act in alignment with these core virtues. In our modern world, it's easy to get distracted by things like social status, appearances, material wealth, or external achievements. We often tie our self-worth to these fleeting external markers, thinking that they will bring us happiness or fulfillment. But as the Stoics teach us, this path is a dead end. These things are out of our control, and they can be taken away at any moment, leaving us vulnerable and emotionally dependent on circumstances. Let's break this down with an example. Suppose you've worked hard to gain a promotion at your job. The position comes with recognition, a higher salary, and a sense of achievement. It's natural to feel proud of your accomplishments. But what happens if the promotion is taken away, or if you face an unexpected setback? If your happiness is tied solely to that external success, you may experience a significant emotional blow. But if instead you focused on the virtue of wisdom, making wise decisions, cultivating a balanced perspective, and adapting to change, you would be able to face the situation with resilience. You wouldn't let external outcomes dictate your sense of self-worth. Instead, you'd focus on the internal strength of living according to your virtues, no matter what external circumstances arise. By focusing on your virtues, you begin to detach your sense of self from what's outside your control. You stop measuring your worth by how much you have, how successful you are, or how others perceive you. Instead, you focus on what's within you, your ability to act with integrity, wisdom, and courage. This shifts your mindset from seeking external validation to building internal strength and satisfaction. As you consistently practice virtues, you build a deeper sense of self-reliance and emotional independence. Think about courage, for example. It's the ability to face adversity with a calm mind and a strong heart. The Stoics understood that life is full of challenges, things we can't predict, control, or always overcome. But courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting in the face of fear, doing what is right, even when it's difficult, uncomfortable, or risky. By focusing on courage, you empower yourself to take bold action without needing others to reassure you or validate your choices. You become confident in your ability to face whatever comes your way, knowing that your virtue of courage will guide you through. Similarly, justice is the virtue of fairness and respect toward others. In a world where opinions can be polarized and division runs deep, justice encourages us to act with kindness and fairness, to seek the common good, and to treat others with empathy and respect, no matter their position or status. Focusing on justice means you act with integrity in all your relationships, knowing that how you treat others is more important than how others treat you. This brings a sense of peace and moral clarity because your self-worth is no longer dependent on others' actions. It is based on your ability to act justly, no matter what. Then there's temperance, which involves practicing moderation and self-control. Instead of seeking instant gratification or indulgence, temperance teaches us to act with balance. Whether it's food, social media, work, or any other area of life, temperance means not letting anything control you, but instead practicing conscious choice. By focusing on temperance, you become less emotionally dependent on external rewards, as you learn to find satisfaction in living with balance. In essence, when you focus on your virtues, you give yourself the tools to lead a fulfilled, independent life. You stop being so reliant on external factors for happiness and start finding peace in your ability to live with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues are timeless and universal, providing you with a consistent source of strength in an ever-changing world. So how can you begin to focus on your virtues today? Start small. Every day, make a conscious effort to practice wisdom in your decisions, courage in facing your challenges, justice in your interactions with others, and temperance in how you manage your desires. As you do, you'll notice that your emotional well-being becomes less reliant on the world around you and more rooted in the strength of your character. Your virtues will become your anchor, providing you with the stability, clarity, and independence you need to navigate life with peace and confidence. Key number 6, practice mindfulness and awareness. Now let's dive into a practice that is not only central to Stoic philosophy, but is also incredibly relevant in today's fast-paced, distraction-filled world: mindfulness and awareness. You've likely heard of mindfulness before, but in the context of Stoicism, it's about much more than just paying attention to the present moment. It's about being fully aware of your thoughts, emotions, and reactions, and choosing how to respond with intention and clarity, rather than reacting impulsively or emotionally. Mindfulness, in essence, is the art of being present, not lost in the past with regrets or anxieties, and not constantly projecting into the future with fears or expectations. It's about living in the here and now, observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment, and taking a step back to reflect on your actions and reactions. And when combined with Stoic principles, mindfulness helps you to remain grounded and make thoughtful decisions, no matter the circumstances. One of the most powerful aspects of mindfulness is its ability to help you gain awareness of what's truly in your control and what is not. Stoicism teaches us that the only things we can control are our own thoughts, actions, and responses. Everything else, other people's opinions, the weather, the actions of the world, are beyond our control. Mindfulness brings this truth into sharper focus, allowing you to recognize when you are spending energy on things outside your control and helping you to redirect that energy into what you can actually change: your own thoughts and responses. For example, when you're stuck in traffic or dealing with a difficult colleague, instead of letting frustration build up, mindfulness allows you to pause. You can observe your emotional reaction without judgment. I feel angry, or I feel upset. But then, with Stoic wisdom, you can choose your response. You can remind yourself, this is beyond my control. What I can control is how I react to this situation. By practicing mindfulness, you can detach yourself from emotional impulses and respond with equanimity, a calm and balanced approach. Mindfulness also helps you become more aware of your thought patterns. Often, we react to situations on autopilot, driven by old habits, ingrained beliefs, or emotional triggers. By developing mindfulness, you can begin to notice those patterns. Are you making assumptions? Are you jumping to conclusions? Are you creating unnecessary emotional turmoil because you're not fully present or aware? By bringing awareness to these unconscious patterns, you give yourself the opportunity to change them. In the context of Stoicism, mindfulness aligns perfectly with the idea of self-mastery. To be a Stoic is to be a master of your own mind and emotions, not allowing external circumstances to dictate how you feel or act. Through mindfulness, you gain the ability to observe your emotions and thoughts without becoming consumed by them. You recognize that your thoughts are not always truths and that you have the power to change the story in your mind. Let's explore this idea further with an example. Imagine you're preparing for a big presentation at work. The natural impulse might be to feel anxious or nervous about the outcome. Mindfulness helps you step back and recognize that your anxiety is simply a reaction to a perceived challenge. Instead of being swept up in that emotion, you can acknowledge it and then remind yourself, I am prepared. I can only control my actions and responses. The rest is beyond my control. By embracing mindfulness in this way, you can calm your mind, lower your anxiety, and approach the presentation with confidence and clarity. Another key aspect of mindfulness is acceptance, the ability to accept things as they are. Life will always present us with challenges, uncertainties, and changes. Through mindfulness, you become more attuned to the reality of each moment without wishing things were different. You begin to accept the present moment as it is, not as you wish it to be. This is especially powerful when combined with Stoic acceptance of what's beyond your control. The Stoics believe that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Mindfulness helps us see events as they are, without judgment or emotional distortion, allowing us to remain peaceful and centered in the face of challenges. Let's bring this into practical terms. Mindfulness is about creating space between stimulus and response. Instead of reacting immediately, you pause and reflect. This moment of awareness is where your power lies. By practicing mindfulness daily, you create a mental habit of responding with intention rather than reacting on autopilot. A powerful Stoic practice that complements mindfulness is journaling. The Stoics often practice reflection and self-examination by writing down their thoughts, feelings, and reactions to daily events. By journaling regularly, you not only become more aware of your thoughts, but you also give yourself the space to reflect on your behavior, to see where you've acted in accordance with your virtues and where you haven't. This reflective practice is an essential part of both mindfulness and personal growth. It allows you to see patterns in your thinking and reactions, and to actively choose how to respond better in the future. Incorporating mindfulness into your daily life also helps you build emotional resilience. It trains your mind to be less reactive and more proactive. You become better equipped to face life's ups and downs with grace and composure, knowing that while you can't control what happens, you can control how you choose to respond. So how can you begin practicing mindfulness today? Start with small steps. Take moments throughout your day to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? What thoughts are running through your mind? Are you present in the moment, or are you distracted by worries about the past or future? By making mindfulness a daily habit, you develop the capacity to remain aware and in control of your emotions and thoughts, and begin to free yourself from the emotional dependency on external circumstances. In the end, mindfulness and awareness aren't just about focusing on the present moment. They are about developing a clear, calm, and rational mind that is capable of making decisions aligned with your best interests, virtues, and long-term well-being. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you'll find that external stressors, worries, and anxieties begin to lose their grip on you, and you begin to cultivate a profound sense of inner peace. Key number 7, cultivate gratitude for yourself. Now let's dive into a powerful and often overlooked aspect of living a life of emotional independence: cultivating gratitude for yourself. When we talk about gratitude, we usually think of being thankful for the people around us or the things we have. And while that kind of gratitude is valuable, there's a deeper layer that's often neglected: gratitude for your own efforts, your growth, and your progress. At the heart of Stoicism lies the understanding that we are all works in progress, and that true contentment comes not from external validation, but from an inner sense of satisfaction in the way we approach life. Gratitude for yourself is about acknowledging your own worth, not because of what you have or what others think of you, but because of the effort you put into becoming the best version of yourself. So how does this connect to emotional independence? When you begin to cultivate gratitude for yourself, you stop relying on others or external sources to feel validated. You start recognizing your own efforts, strengths, and growth, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. This leads to a deeper, more consistent sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on others' praise or approval. It's easy to get caught in the trap of comparing yourself to others or seeking external validation. Social media, career achievements, and even relationships can make us feel like we're only as good as what others see or how much we accomplish. But Stoicism teaches us that the true measure of our worth lies within, in how we live our values, in the effort we put into our personal growth, and in the integrity with which we approach life. Think about it for a moment. How often do you acknowledge your own effort, your discipline, or your persistence? We're often quick to point out our mistakes or shortcomings, but rarely do we take a moment to appreciate the strength and courage we show every day in the face of challenges. By cultivating gratitude for yourself, you start to shift your focus from what's lacking to what's already there. For example, maybe you've been working hard on improving your emotional resilience. Each time you choose not to react impulsively, not to let negative emotions control you, that's something to be proud of. When you practice mindfulness and catch yourself before you spiral into negative thinking, you're making progress, and that's worth acknowledging. These small victories in your personal development matter. They represent your commitment to growth, and they deserve to be recognized and appreciated. Gratitude for yourself also means accepting yourself, not in a complacent, "I don't need to change" kind of way, but in a compassionate and realistic way. It's about accepting your flaws, your mistakes, and your imperfections, while also celebrating your strengths, resilience, and progress. Remember, being a Stoic doesn't mean being perfect. It means striving to live with virtue, to learn from every experience, and to always move forward with intention. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about self-reflection and self-appreciation. In his meditations, he often reminded himself to be thankful for his own efforts, as well as the opportunities he had to grow. He recognized that personal growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires conscious effort, patience, and perseverance. By acknowledging his own progress, he could keep going with a sense of purpose and gratitude, even in the face of difficult circumstances. One simple way to cultivate this kind of gratitude is through daily reflection. Every day, take a moment to ask yourself, what did I do today that I'm proud of? What steps did I take, no matter how small, to be a better version of myself? Write it down in a journal. Even the smallest positive actions, whether it's having a productive day, sticking to your values, or showing kindness to someone, deserve recognition. Over time, this practice will help you build a stronger sense of self-appreciation and emotional independence. It's also important to practice self-compassion. Sometimes we get caught up in striving for perfection and forget that we're human. We all make mistakes, but when we approach those mistakes with gratitude for the lessons they bring, we can begin to see them as opportunities for growth rather than failures. Each time you learn from an experience, you're becoming wiser, and that wisdom is something to be grateful for. Another powerful aspect of cultivating gratitude for yourself is acknowledging the courage it takes to face life's challenges. We often overlook the strength we have to endure hardships, whether it's personal struggles, professional setbacks, or emotional pain. But facing those challenges with resilience requires an immense amount of courage and perseverance. By appreciating this within yourself, you not only boost your emotional resilience, but you also cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace, knowing that you have what it takes to handle whatever comes your way. Let's put this into action. Think about a challenging time in your life, maybe a moment when you felt overwhelmed or unsure. Reflect on how you handled it. Even if things didn't go perfectly, acknowledge your effort and resilience. You might have faltered at times, but you continued moving forward. That's worth celebrating. The more you practice gratitude for yourself, the more you will notice your own growth and transformation. You'll shift from seeking external validation to finding fulfillment and pride in the work you're doing within yourself. And this creates a strong foundation for emotional independence, because you'll realize that your worth doesn't depend on others' opinions or achievements. It comes from the quality of your character, your virtues, and the constant work you put into becoming a better version of yourself. So ask yourself, how can you cultivate gratitude for yourself today? What part of your journey are you overlooking that deserves appreciation? Whether it's a personal achievement, a lesson learned, or simply your perseverance in the face of adversity, take a moment to honor yourself. You deserve it. Key number 8, confront your fears. Let's talk about something that holds many of us back in life: fear. Fear can be paralyzing, limiting our potential and keeping us stuck in patterns of emotional dependence. Whether it's the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, or even the fear of being alone, fear has a way of dictating our lives if we let it. But here's where Stoicism offers us one of its most powerful tools for emotional independence: confronting your fears head-on. The Stoics believe that fear, just like any other emotion, isn't something to shy away from, but rather something to face directly. By confronting our fears, we disempower them. The more we resist them or avoid them, the stronger they seem. But when we face them, they lose their hold over us. This is because fear thrives in the unknown, in the things we choose to avoid or ignore. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca put it, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Often the things we fear are much less threatening than we make them out to be. Now, confronting fear doesn't mean you should dive into something you're terrified of without preparation. It's not about recklessness. It's about slowly and intentionally facing what makes you anxious. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're afraid of public speaking. You might fear being judged, making a mistake, or being laughed at. The more you avoid it, the stronger this fear grows. But if you start small, like speaking in front of a mirror, then to a small group of friends, and gradually work your way up to larger audiences, you'll realize that the fear wasn't as overwhelming as it seemed from a distance. What you're doing is gradually desensitizing yourself to the fear. By confronting it in manageable steps, you build confidence and resilience. The key is not to try and eliminate fear entirely, but to make it a part of your growth. As you confront each fear, you start to realize that you are capable of handling far more than you thought. Fear loses its power over you because you've learned that you can live through it and even thrive. Another example from the Stoics is the practice of negative visualization, a technique where you intentionally imagine the worst-case scenario. This sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. By imagining what might happen if your worst fears come true, you begin to realize that you can still handle it. For instance, if you fear losing a job, imagine what you'd do if that actually happened. How would you cope? What would your next steps be? The more you mentally prepare for these outcomes, the less power they hold over you. You begin to understand that most of our fears are just imagined scenarios, and even if they do come true, you're more than capable of navigating them. Facing your fears also strengthens your resilience and emotional independence. The more you confront fear, the less you rely on others to feel safe. You no longer need constant reassurance or validation because you trust in your own ability to handle life's challenges. You develop an inner strength that isn't dependent on external circumstances. And here's the powerful part. When you start confronting your fears, you begin to break the cycle of emotional dependence. You realize that fear often lies at the heart of many emotional reactions we have to others. Whether it's seeking constant approval, fearing abandonment, or relying on others for emotional stability. By facing your fears, you take back your emotional power. You stop waiting for others to save you from your anxiety or doubts. You become your own source of strength and courage. In the end, confronting your fears is an ongoing journey. It doesn't happen overnight, but with each step you take, you build emotional resilience and you gradually free yourself from the limitations that fear imposes. So ask yourself, what is one fear you can confront today? Is it the fear of rejection, failure, loneliness, or something else? Remember, the more you face those fears, the more you realize that you are stronger than you think. Key number 9, understand the impermanence of life. Now let's dive into one of the most profound Stoic teachings, the impermanence of life. This concept is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and it's also a crucial lesson for anyone seeking emotional independence and inner peace. The reality is, everything in life is temporary. People come and go, experiences fade, and even our own emotions shift like the seasons. And while this can sound unsettling at first, understanding impermanence is incredibly freeing. When we deeply understand that nothing lasts forever, neither the good times nor the bad, we start to free ourselves from the intense emotional reactions we often have to life's ups and downs. The Stoics believe that much of our suffering comes from our attachment to things and our resistance to change. We get so wrapped up in wanting to hold on to what we have, be it relationships, possessions, or even the way we feel at any given moment. But when we learn to accept the transitory nature of everything, we stop clinging and start living more fully in the present. Think about it. When we experience loss, change, or disappointment, it's easy to feel devastated. But what if, instead of fearing or resisting these moments, we embrace them as part of the natural flow of life? The Stoics would say that everything that happens in life, good or bad, is part of the grand tapestry of existence, and we can either resist it and suffer, or we can accept it and grow. Take, for example, a season of hardship, or even a relationship that's come to an end. We often experience pain because we resist the fact that it's changing. But by recognizing that nothing is permanent, we allow ourselves to accept the change without the weight of unnecessary emotional baggage. We start to release the need to control every outcome and instead develop a deeper sense of peace because we understand that all things, including pain, are fleeting. This doesn't mean we become indifferent or detached from life's experiences. Far from it. Instead, understanding impermanence allows us to enjoy each moment more fully, knowing that we may not have it forever. It encourages us to appreciate the present, to be grateful for the relationships, the opportunities, and the beauty we encounter along the way. The good times become sweeter because we know they won't last forever, and the difficult times become easier to endure because we know they, too, will pass. When you accept that nothing is permanent, you stop depending on external circumstances, like people or material possessions, to determine your happiness. Instead, you begin to find joy in the ever-changing, ever-evolving nature of life itself. You learn to live with more flexibility, openness, and resilience, because you understand that change is the only constant in life. Ultimately, the Stoic practice of recognizing the impermanence of life is not about fear of loss. It's about embracing the fleeting beauty of life and finding peace within it. It's a reminder that our emotional well-being doesn't have to be tied to external circumstances. Life is constantly moving, and by learning to go with the flow, we become more in tune with our own inner strength no matter what the future holds. Key number 10, embrace solitude. Now let's talk about something that might sound a little counterintuitive, especially in today's world where we're constantly surrounded by noise, social media, and the pressure to always be connected. That's the idea of embracing solitude. In our fast-paced, always-on society, solitude can often be seen as something negative or uncomfortable, even something to be avoided. But the Stoics understood the power of being alone. They recognized that time spent alone isn't about loneliness. It's about self-reflection, growth, and inner peace. In fact, it's through solitude that we can reconnect with ourselves on a deeper level, away from the distractions and the expectations of the outside world. When you learn to embrace solitude, you no longer rely on others to fill a void or make you feel complete. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself or cut off meaningful relationships, but it means you get comfortable in your own presence, without needing constant interaction or external validation to feel worthy or fulfilled. Think about the times when you were alone, whether you were taking a walk in nature, reading a book in a quiet space, or simply reflecting in your own company. How did you feel in those moments? Many people find that they experience peace, clarity, and even creativity when they're alone. Solitude allows us to process our thoughts without external noise, to reflect on our values, and to cultivate a sense of self-awareness that we often miss when we're constantly engaged with others. The Stoics would say that solitude isn't just a retreat from the world, it's a retreat into your own mind and soul. It's the space where you can reconnect with your true self, away from the expectations of others or societal pressures. It's in these moments that you learn to trust your own judgment, find clarity about your purpose, and build a stronger sense of self-reliance. When you're no longer dependent on others for entertainment, company, or emotional fulfillment, you begin to realize just how much inner strength you have. You become more grounded, centered, and self-sufficient. And paradoxically, when you embrace solitude, you also open the door to deeper, more meaningful connections with others because you no longer need anyone to complete you. You're already whole. So, there you have it. 10 powerful Stoic principles that can help you live without emotional dependence and reclaim your inner peace. By embracing these keys, you're not only learning how to stop relying on others for your happiness, but you're also gaining the freedom to shape your own life, guided by your values, wisdom, and personal growth. And remember, this journey isn't about pushing people away or shutting yourself off from the world. It's about cultivating a sense of self-reliance that allows you to love others deeply without needing them to complete you. It's about finding the balance between being deeply connected to yourself and allowing room for genuine, healthy relationships. The Stoic approach teaches us that our worth is not tied to anyone else's opinion, approval, or actions, because we are already whole and enough, just as we are. As you begin to apply these principles in your own life, take small steps each day. Start by observing your reactions to external events and practicing the art of emotional detachment. Try to embrace the challenges that come your way, knowing that every difficulty is an opportunity for growth. And when you feel yourself craving validation or approval from someone else, gently remind yourself that you don't need anyone to define your worth. Your worth is inherent and comes from within. It's not always easy, and it's not something that happens overnight. But with consistent practice, you'll begin to notice a shift in how you view yourself and others. You'll start feeling more grounded, more at peace, and more in control of your emotions. You'll find that you don't need to depend on anyone or anything to feel whole, because you already are. I would love to hear your thoughts on these Stoic keys. Which principle resonated with you the most? Do you have any experiences where you've applied some of these ideas in your life? Drop a comment below and let's start a conversation. Your insights and feedback can inspire others who are on the same path. And if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more empowering content. We have so many more topics to explore together, and I want you to be part of this journey. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, true freedom and peace come from within. No one else can give you the sense of fulfillment you're searching for. It's already inside you, waiting to be discovered. Take this wisdom, apply it, and start living a life where you're the creator of your own happiness. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Want more wisdom on Stoicism and emotional independence? Check out these other videos and make sure you're subscribed for more transformative content.